play. And another foul on board. His third for setting a screen.
Because of physical play, although Jordan Taylor just got caught with a moving screen.
Pick and roll. And a foul, offensive foul coming up. Ken Valentine standing right there.
Izzo dying for a moving screen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Moving Screen Podcast. I'm Brendan Quinn of The Athletic here with Dylan Burkhart of UM Hoops. It is April 22nd. We are officially in the off-season, but we're going to keep this thing going when time allows. Dylan, how are you, pal?
They say the best way to keep momentum in the off-season is just take a week off and not even record a podcast. It really keeps the buzz going.
Listen, man, there's mental health. You know, that's the big topic around sports today. You know, mental health. You got to make sure that you go and clear your mind a little bit. Get away from things.
All right, good. You get away and clear your head a little bit?
You get to enjoy. I did. Played some golf, even though the weather didn't really cooperate for most of it, but that's all right. Nor did my game. But now jumping into a new calendar season of coverage, and so I'm going to be doing some golf and stuff. I got 6 tournaments coming up, so yeah, I needed to take a couple of days. I'm sorry.
Good.
I'm sorry, bud.
That's good.
And you're about to go gallivanting off to Europe soon in your very luxurious lifestyle that you have.
That's me. Pure luxury.
All right. Well, like we said, folks, we're gonna try to, I guess, just touch on things kind of here and there around kind of marks on the calendar that are relevant to hoops. Yeah, so, you know, last night was the last day. We're recording this Monday, April 22nd. So last night was the deadline to enter the draft, so that's pretty much wrapped up now, so we can get into where rosters stand now and what they could become in the coming weeks or months. And then as it goes, you know, if there are big commitments, maybe we do quick pods, but we're not just going to go dark until next season. We can pretty much assure you that. So here we are. We're going to get into Michigan and Michigan State roster developments, and then we're going to go through the Big Ten and kind of talk about each team, who's coming, who's going, and whether that equates to that team's stock being up or being down. So lots to talk about. So for all you fellow geeks on hoops, this should be right up your alley.
Yeah, let's do it. You want to start with Michigan or Michigan State?
Let's go with Michigan State having the returning player of the year announcing his return. Let's start there. I've been still trying to talk to folks around this to get a little bit better of an idea of what went into the decision not to test at all. I, for one, was a little bit surprised. Not surprised that he's coming back to school, but surprised that he didn't just go through the process just for the educational nature of it or to get some feedback. But Winston's also a pretty pragmatic kid, and I think all along he knew he was not going to go into the NBA draft, and if he knows he's not going to go to the NBA draft, then he probably just saw little value in going through the draft process. That would be my guess. I've not spoken to Cassius directly, but
I do think there's a element of if you are testing the waters and not going all in, you can kind of get exposed a little bit.
True.
I remember, I think when Mo did it, right? What was that, 2 years ago? He just embarrassed himself basically at all the combine drills, and everyone was like,
"Yep,
this kid is not draftable." But there's a big difference between preparing for all of those sort of workouts with an agent and like going all in and doing it, or just showing up, getting a couple workouts in and seeing how you look. So I think you can make an argument that if Winston is not all in and thinking about going to the league as an actual possibility, you're not going to gain that much feedback. You might actually leave a bad impression in someone's head, right?
That's a great point.
he also has been battling tendonitis and stuff with his legs through most of the second half of the season. Mm-hmm. Could play a part.
And the other thing is, I mean, just talking to him after the loss to Texas Tech, I didn't see even an inkling of interest in capitalizing on what he did. Because, I mean, I think amongst guys like you and me, when we talk about this, the obvious talking point is, well, shit, what else is this guy going to do next year to make his stock any higher? I mean, yeah, he could get in better shape and some things like that, but, like, he's not going to become an extraordinary athlete. He's, not going to become a shutdown defender. Like, he was a second-team All-American. He was the Big Ten Player of the Year, and he damn near single-handedly led his team to the Final Four, right? Like, the same way that he could maybe only hurt himself by entering the draft, you could make the same argument for a senior year, where it's, like, going to be pretty hard to live up to what you just did. And not saying it's not possible, but I'm just saying kind of, just a counter argument to any line of thought here.
What could Cassius Winston do to exceed expectations? They're basically two things: National Player of the Year, National Championship. That's basically it, right? I mean,
both
other than
really
that,
hard.
it'll just be then that's that's ridiculous. Other than that, it will just be like baseline performance, right?
Yeah.
He's basically has to live up to what he did this year, which is going to be tough but possible.
Yeah, and he wasn't always the National Player of the Year or he wasn't always a second-team All-American this year, and he wasn't always the Big Ten Player of the Year this year. He might have been the leading candidate for most of the year, but there were a lot of games where certainly didn't look like it. Right? It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Cassius all year. Now,
about February onward.
The last 2 months of the year where he was extraordinary. So, yeah, end of the day, I think he made probably the right call. And I'll be, just selfishly, as a guy who covers Michigan State, I obviously want that guy to play another year of college basketball. He's not only a pleasure to watch, but as someone who has to go in the locker room and stuff, he's as good as it gets in terms of dealing with us and giving thoughtful answers. And I mean, he was amazing after the loss to Texas Tech. He was absolutely amazing. So it'll be good to have him back. And Nick Ward, meanwhile, will be moving on. And I think it's pretty black and white on that 99.5% that he stays and goes. I mean, maybe something completely crazy happens, but I think he's gone, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I kind of see him as a guy who gets maybe a summer league look, and will have to show that his game isn't what it's been, which is just kind of resigned to low blocks and rebounds, and that's basically it. He has to add some kind of value in other areas of the floor.
There is a secondary combine this year, right? A G League combine.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
It seems like could be an interesting spot for him to kind of show something. Mm-hmm. I would think he'd probably get potentially an invite to that. I don't know if he'd get it straight up. I believe that's before. Is that before the combine? And then if you perform well, you get invited to the combine. Is that accurate or no?
That I'm not sure on the dates. I didn't even know the G League combine existed until last week.
Okay, same. But it could be interesting for some of the. I think the list is 130, 140 people declared early. It could be a really interesting spot for some of those early entrants in terms of testing the waters, where people are going to be there. People are going to be watching. If you can produce, could be an interesting spot. Nick Ward, sort of a weird end to, I guess, potential end to his career, right?
A weird end to a weird career.
That's one way to put it. It's just, it feels, I don't know. It's just I feel like he could have been something more, but he also kind of held Michigan State back at times. It's sort of a weird, I don't know what to make of, I guess, his 3 years there.
And it's hard because when you look back on like November and into December, he was playing well.
Yeah, that's what for sure.
Like the numbers were there. He was certainly, his defense was certainly improved. It wasn't certainly wasn't just a glaring detriment or anything like that, which is kind of as it had been, and then as it ended up being on the back end here of his 3 years. But that 2-month window to start the year, he looked like a guy who took everything that he learned from going through the process last year. It worked out. He bought into the system. He bought into his game, and was adding value to what he is as a eventual professional basketball player in whatever shape or form that is.
He was sort of always a bit of a guy who beats up on bad teams, though, right?
This is true.
I mean, he was really made Michigan State dominant in some of those games because of how he could beat up on, I guess, bad teams, but it was always going to be those matchups where someone could put him in uncomfortable situations, and then all of a sudden Xavier Tillman turned into a guy who could completely change the game in that same spot. And obviously not a lot of upside for Nick Ward to come back to school because it's clearly Xavier Tillman's spot.
Right.
That changed. I mean, that wasn't something we were saying in February, in January, right? Like, that happened quick.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm trying to find this one quote that he said to me before the Texas Tech game where he essentially said, like, look, I had to come to the realization that what the NBA voices want me or want to see from me is not what the team needs from me. And I think that all along he had to have known last summer when he decided to come back that while he went to these team workouts and was hitting 18-footers and 20-foot jump shots and trying to show that he was more than just this kind of, ox in the paint, that Michigan State wasn't suddenly going to rewrite its offense to make him a pick-and-pop center. Like, that was not happening. And there was a level of frustration there that what he wanted to be able to show off was not in the plans at any point for this team.
Definitely, yeah. So I guess Michigan State, do you expect they have an open scholarship without Ward? Is that accurate?
Yes.
So do you expect any sort of late recruit, grad transfer?
The Blackshear kid is obviously the buzzy name from Virginia Tech. I don't know how real not real. I think it's certainly real. They've been in contact, but I don't know how likely it is. It seems like Florida is a possible destination. Like, look, I don't know Blackshear personally, obviously. Like, the question here would be, like, does this kid want to go try to win a national championship, or does this kid want to go be a lottery pick? Because I don't know if those two things match up. Like, if you go to Michigan State, you're not taking 15 shots a game, right? You're not going to be the marquee player in the offense. There's only so many shots to go around, and he'd be obviously fitting.
He's a pretty good fit at the 4, right?
No, of course. That's what I'm saying. Like, if he wants to go win a national championship, you go to Michigan State without a doubt. But if he wants to go be the star of a team, I don't know. I don't think it's not the best fit.
I mean, it'd be a pretty perfect plug and play. Replace Kenny in the starting lineup, and you get better, right? I mean, he shoots a little bit. He is a skilled kid. I mean, it'd be hard to argue with that fit. Obviously, I guess it does come down to you could go to anywhere else and average 20 and 8, but do you want to win?
Exactly. Oh, and
that's the way
you've dealt with
it.
basketball players for a long time. It's not always, yeah, let's go win some nets. It's I have 1 year to convince pro scouts that I can be this. He took 10 shots a game last year at Va Tech, averaging 15 points. I think he could get that at Michigan State. I'm not saying that, but like if he wants to go someplace where he's the man, this isn't it.
Is he testing the NBA stock first, or is he just a pure grad transfer?
He's a pure grad transfer. It's my understanding.
Interesting. Michigan State's already going to be preseason #1. They would be a lot. I mean, you're looking at who to play that spot otherwise. Marcus Bingham? I mean, that's a big upgrade.
It would be I mean, they would go from being the #1 ranked preseason team in the country to being like the #1 ranked preseason team with a bullet favorites to win the national championship. No doubt about it. That squad would be loaded. I mean, he's 6'10", 250. Just a load down there. Although what did he average? I don't have it in front. 7.5 rebounds a game last year. I mean, you put him into what they already do. He even hit 21 threes last year.
He shoots three a little bit.
Yeah.
He can pass it. The numbers all check out, and as far as that goes.
Yeah, but like you see my point.
They're probably better places he could be showcased.
Right, when he goes to Florida and they say, we're going to run everything around you. Or if he goes with Buzz and visits Texas A&M and he says, we're going to run everything around you. We want you to be the SEC Player of the Year this year and blah, 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 blah. Well, Michigan State has a lot going on in that roster. And it's really what he wants. If he wants to win a national championship, then there's no doubt about it. You go to Michigan State, and it wouldn't be the first time that a really talented player, trims back his numbers but still sees his value rise because you get to go play 6 games in March, and you play with other elite players. This kid, Michigan State gets to say, you want to come play with the best point guard in the country? Well, here you go.
Yep.
So,
interesting. Any other names for people to know Michigan State wise, or you think if they can't get a home run, it's maybe just stick with?
Yeah, I mean,
what you've got.
I certainly don't see like a late 2019 signee. There's stuff about the Hauser boys. I'm not seeing that. First of all, you need to free up one more scholarship. Never say never, but I would imagine they just pocket it if, unless something great comes up, Blackshear or someone else, or another transfer, which is certainly possible. Like, I actually look at this roster, and they'd be in a perfect spot to take a kid who could sit out.
Yeah, for sure, because you're looking at Winston, Langford, all moving on after this year.
And Kyle Lawrence.
Yep.
And then
Tillman maybe has a
Tillman
draft decision to make after the year.
Aaron Henry.
You're looking at a complete potential, not a complete rebuild, but like you're going to build this team all around Cassius Winston.
Yeah.
You need to look at something else the next year, and I don't know what it would really be.
A sit-out veteran guard would probably be the ideal play here. And I know they're looking at guys, but in terms of anything that's imminent coming up, I have nothing there. So we'll see. There's still a lot of time. The funny thing is, like, when the season ends and just all these names suddenly become available and everyone wants answers immediately, and you're like, there's a lot of stuff that has to play out. Like, we could still be having damn near the same conversation in 3 weeks. This doesn't just happen overnight.
Yeah, there's like the process of, they called so-and-so, but then there's all sorts of admissions questions when it comes to transfers, all that fun stuff to work through. That it's sort of a slow process that can wrap up quick, I would say, right? I mean, there's a lot of hoops to jump through early and make sure it's a fit, and then it can also come together quickly in other situations.
Mm-hmm. Like the draft withdrawal date isn't until, May 29th, right?
May 29th. So you have basically 5 weeks from today.
So there's still a ways to go. Let's jump over to Michigan roster. You had a really great piece on potential roster moves for 19-20. Some good video in there. It was good I enjoyed watching some of that stuff. I made some obvious, bold decisions based on the 3-minute clips that.
That's good. That's you and everyone else.
Well, so why don't you lead the way here, and I'll give you my takes.
All right, so basically there are 4 names who have kind of come to the top that Michigan is looking at to add potentially. One is Justin Pierce. He is a grad transfer from William and Mary. Graduated in 3 years. He's not a redshirt. He is 6'7", did not shoot it all that well this year, but is a good passer and shot it very well as a sophomore. The next name is Franz Wagner, Mo's little brother, and Beeline is going over to Germany to meet with him this week.
Credit to Josh Henschke on that report.
Correct, who got it from Nishan Hyland, who is a 6'3" guard who Michigan called up after he played very well. He's a graduating senior, but he's playing on the 17U circuit this year in the spring to get some attention. And he played very well. Michigan reached out, believe they're going in to talk to him this week. And then obviously this weekend is a live period, so all coaches will be able to watch him playing AAU games against obviously a lot of players who are younger than him, but he missed the entire AAU season last year after jumping out of the second floor of his house as it was burning down in a fire that killed 2 of his family members.
Right.
He's what I call a ball-dominant guard, but he's not really a point guard. 6'3", good at getting his own shot off, a lot of range.
I thought you made a great comparison to Abdur Rahman.
Yeah, he's a guy you watch who he just gets a lot of buckets. It's never like quite. He doesn't look like a point guard, but he's always has the ball in his hands for his high school team, and he likes to get to the bucket. And the final name is Lester Quinones, who is a 6'3" guard at IMG Academy. He is down to Michigan, LSU, Memphis, Maryland, and Indiana. And he's set to take an official to Michigan a week from today. LSU has long been the favorite there, and now that Will Wade is reinstated, they are probably still the favorite to get both him and Trendon Watford. Because it helps to get your investigated coach back late in recruitments. So
when you need your coach back, you know what you do? Just fire your AD. What's the problem? No worries.
There you go. That's how it's done.
And he's deciding on May 10th.
May 10th, which is Michigan is his last official. He's also supposed to visit Indiana officially, I think, this week.
Mm-hmm. So these are 4 names, and as anyone who follows Michigan or even college basketball would know, certainly other names could emerge here late in the transfer market, whatever it may be. But so we're talking right now 4 names for potentially 2 spots.
Yep, and you were at the banquet last week, was that? And talked to both Iggy and Jordan. Anything you want to add there?
I don't think either is coming back. I certainly do not think Ignas is coming back. Could something happen with Jordan and his feedback? Maybe. But just, these are 2 guys that I've been around a lot. And reading body English, reading kind of tells, looking in their eyes when they talk, reading between the lines of things they say. I picked up zero indication that either is strongly considering, or even close to being 50-50 on returning to school. Jordan is still looking. Or him and his family are still talking to a number of different agencies, and I think that's kind of wrapping up soon. I'm trying to find Cassius, or I'm not Cassius, Jesus. Ignas told me who he signed with. You First Sports, who's
very an international agency.
Yes.
They sign a lot of international guys to pro deals, and I know the agent that I think he told you was
J.R. Hensley.
Yeah, from the Spiece, right? His family is the Hensley Run and Slam Spiece stuff too, so that's an interesting connection. But I think there's also a Lithuanian agent involved there also with you first. who might have some connections there. So that happened. I think it's telling that he had an agent ready to go when he declared. Says something about where he is in the process, probably, and his intentions.
Yeah, I agree. So that's pretty much wrapped up. Iggy said that he will make his final decision after the combine. So, like, this being an interesting thing, how many guys get invited to the combine? Is it 60?
It's around 60 to 70.
I certainly assume Brazdeikis gets an invite to the combine. I don't see why not. But I did just it was very just declarative when he said, like, yeah, I'm going to go to the combine and blah blah, and I'll make my final decision after that. And like, what if he doesn't get an invite? Not out of the realm of possibility, but it'll be really interesting to see if he and Poole get one. Obviously, Charles Matthews is done. But if either of those do not get an invite to the combine, I think that would certainly throw a potential interesting wrench into what I know you and I both kind of believe to be pretty much a done deal, that neither would come back. Any thoughts on that?
The way I would say it is both fully intend to stay in the NBA draft and think that they will be drafted, and they're going about it that way. Obviously, they're not technically prevented from returning, and yet I think the only things that could really change that are you're not invited to the combine, which says not enough teams think you're draftable, or maybe you get hurt or something, right? Like, the door is technically open, even if you have no intention of turning around and coming back through it. That's how I kind of sum it up right now.
Fair. So let's operate under the assumption that they have two open spots. Okay.
They're certainly seem to be operating as if they will have two spots, which is also telling.
Yes, as they should be. This whole Beeline visiting Wagner thing is fascinating. I think it's as much to gauge his real interest in playing college basketball versus remaining or going pro, making some money, and kind of developing into an NBA prospect abroad, which is certainly a reasonable avenue to take. And I think it's that whole Beeline thing about I want to look him in the eyes and see if he wants to come and be real. Because, like, I know he talks about it and some of us roll our eyes at it, but, like, that is legit. He really does feel strongly about having that kind of gut feeling that a kid really wants to actually be there.
I also think there's more pressure on Franz than Mo to stay at Elba. He's already a more regarded prospect at this age. He's already playing games with the senior team, and Elba realizes that Mo went and got drafted. And as an international team, if you have a guy get drafted, you're looking at a buyout, you're looking at more profile. There's a lot of reasons for them to want to keep him, and I think that there's more pressure in that regard to try to sign him to a long-term deal. Or not a long-term deal, but a deal, period.
Yes.
And that is something that is probably hard to get a read on. I don't think there's obviously some factors working in Michigan's favor there too. I mean, Mo would probably, I would think, side with Michigan in this regard, right? So it really just comes down to that decision and what he wants to do. Like, everything about Mo's experience at Michigan has been received positively, right?
Yeah. I also think Mo is very rational, and he knows what his brother would be turning down, and he knows the money that's on the table, and now he's getting a taste of professional life himself. And I certainly wouldn't think that he would say you should go to Michigan. Let's put it that way. I think he would say you should do whatever you want.
Fair. I don't think
and all for all the pros and cons of both sides.
If you ask Mo if he thought he made the right decision, I think he would say yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
That's what I would put it at. I think, have you watched video of his brother?
I mean, I've watched him for a while now. I think he projects to being, I think he'd be an outstanding addition of the names that we talked and pretty much any other name you want to throw in there from the transfer market, I would take Franz over pretty much anyone. I think his upside is enormous. A 6'8" guy. I know he's skinny, but there's been a lot of skinny players that come through Michigan basketball that have come out looking pretty good. So
it's basketball. It doesn't matter how skinny you are.
The kid's got skills. I like his feel for the game. He kind of reminds, he's a different player he's not Mo.
Yeah,
he's a very different
he's a 3.
Yeah, I was thinking a 3 who projects as a 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Mo's kind of just feel for the court and where to be and kind of how to move for a guy who wasn't exceedingly athletic or fast or quick. Just his ability to kind of read a play or read movements and kind of just be in the right spot and know where other guys are. He's probably a little bit better of a passer than Mo, and that could certainly be an interesting imagine a guy with Mo's feel being a better passer. I love his game, and if I'm Beeline, I'm trying my best to stick him in my carry-on.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a couple Alba games just because what else are you supposed to do in April? And it's pretty astonishing, I think, because I've also been watching William and Mary film,
right?
High school
Holy
film.
hell!
The speed that they play, when he's playing with the senior team, it's high level basketball. He's playing in these games that it's the Euro Cup, which is basically the second tier of international competition, and they were in the finals, right? I mean, this is a real deal tournament.
Yes.
Derek Walton's out there as an average player, right? Yeah. And Derek Walton 3 years ago was a dominant college player, right? So seeing him play with some of these guys, Walton, Peyton Siva, and just
men,
he fits in. It's just to be able to play at that speed, I think, could help him translate to the college game quicker. And he's further along. Mo played 2 games, I think, with the senior team ever. And Franz is a legit contributor, which is pretty crazy at his age.
There was one clip on the video that I believe it's the one that you have up right now, where he gets, it's either like a dribble handoff or something where he kind of comes off I think it was a handoff at the top, and he comes off a high screen right at the top of the 3-point line and cuts down the right side and takes his 2 long steps, and you really see his length. He takes these 2 long, pretty steps and has this nice little soft right-hand runner where I'm like, oh, you just picture that. These are pros that he's going against, and you're like, if he's doing that and that, this is a guy. Forget the standstill shooting, right? Forget that stuff. That's a play that I'm like, that equates next year in the Big Ten. If you can get that shot and make that play in that league, you can do that tomorrow in this league.
For sure. So
I have no idea if he's coming to Michigan now.
Yeah, absolutely a take if you can take him. But who knows? There's a lot of pressure there. It's funny that the connections between Beeline and this team in Germany is kind of strange.
The Beelines, that's right.
Because I think Air Bear played with them back in the day. It's all these dudes, and it's so a lot of familiarity there. But maybe they're trying to keep one of these young guys finally once. Walton's there. It's just the whole way that the Wagner connection started was the guy who I wrote about him years ago, but there's a random guy who's kind of a coach, kind of a handler, kind of a go-between in German basketball, and with Alba came over and went to some coaching clinics in the U.S., and he met Beeline and he got his card. Then all this time later, he emailed the video to John, and John never watched it because it went to his trash because it was some random German email. And then Beeline finds it, and then he watches it, and then he gets interested, and he reaches back out to this guy. And you're right. I mean, it's all just completely crazy. And it would be fun to get another Wagner around here. Hopefully, I don't really care about his game. Hopefully, his personality is as much of his. I don't think he's quite as Mo as Mo was.
No.
But we'll see. You said before we were talking about this, you said you have some hot takes about Justin Pierce next.
I just watching the film. I don't know if I'm feeling Justin Pierce. First, let me preface this by asking you, of all of the up transfers in college basketball, guys who've gone mid to low major up to high major, how many can you rattle off that have been notably effective or lived up to expectations?
Matt Mooney.
There's one.
I think that it's a bit of a crapshoot. I also think that it comes down to a lot of fit and role. I think that Pierce there's a role that he could play, and he's already kind of prepared to play, that Michigan could use. Like,
who's this guy defending?
I'm not really sure who anyone on next year's Michigan team is defending other than Xavier Simpson and John Teskey. But if you can just build I think the most important thing, and I think I said this 2 podcasts back, is that you get 3 players who can play without the ball between Simpson and Teskey, preferably who can shoot 40% from 3.
Pierce is a 4, and I can't see him playing anything else, correct?
That's what I said at first. I think it depends who's next to him. He passes better than Isaiah Livers. I mean, I don't know. He's not going to guard a 2. That's fair.
Put it this way. The shooting numbers worry me because it's not only his threes. You look at his free throw shooting. He was top 20 in the CAA. Shot 79% a year ago and went down to 59% this past year.
He had a hairline fracture in his hand/wrist before the season.
I understand.
Shooting hand. That's a notable
I understand.
thing.
But it would be one thing if his numbers got progressively better over the year, but he still shot 32.9% on threes in league play. Like, there was no incremental improvement. Which, if you're playing through an injury, you would think over the course of a year you would gradually get a little bit better. But so shooting numbers aside, though, I don't know if I see the value of putting a guy in front of Brandon Johns right now. Now, it's certainly good to have an option there, right? And you don't want to just go into a season just crossing your fingers. But, like, I don't know who this guy can defend. I think he's limited athletically. You just watch the film of the CAA, and, like, the CAA is a average 1-bid league. It's a huge jump to ask this guy to get his shot off in the Big Ten and to defend in the Big Ten. And I know he played 34 minutes a game, and he's experienced. He's played almost 90 games in his career. It'd be like a nice piece to have, but I don't know if I would want Pierce taking minutes from other options right now on this team.
I'll put it this way. If you show me the roster for next year and you put Pierce on there, he is, I would say, a rotation player without a doubt.
I agree. He would be a rotation player.
I think his ceiling, if he shoots 40% from 3, all of a sudden, I mean, the passing is what I think intrigues me the most. Mm-hmm. Like his feel for the game, passing, cutting. Obviously, it's kind of a Princeton offense he plays in, but that would probably make an easier transition into kind of learning the ins and outs of Michigan's system, compared to a guy like Jerron Simmons, who basically dribbled the ball for 20 seconds and then ran a ball screen at Ohio. Right? He's more used to the sort of offensive system he'd play in. The defense is obviously the concern, I would say, in that regard, where he defends. But I think he could play the 2 on offense.
Wow.
You have to understand, Xavier Simpson is going to have the ball in his hands the entire game.
I think they would like to have some other people on the court at least put the ball into his hands and go into a ball screen.
And
I don't know if this guy is...
Pierce plays out of balls. He is a 25% assist rate last year.
I didn't see much dribbling on the clips that I've seen. And now that doesn't mean he can't. And
no, he's a passer, not a dribbler.
I did not watch a lot of William and Mary basketball last year. Go Tribe. But I don't know. It's... A lot of it's
put on your boys.
A lot of it is not just... everyone put it on the Hawks, man.
20, 12, and 3 against your boys.
Sounds about right. Now, what was I going to say? You got me thinking Hawks. Oh, so not all of this is just about Justin Pierce. It is also, there isn't a lot of evidence of guys making this leap that it goes exceedingly well. Now there has been CAA guys. I remember Damian Lee, I believe his name was, from Drexel, who went to Louisville and was a major contributor there. I don't know. I'm just saying if I have a scholarship, I might look elsewhere, and I worry again about his defense, and I kind of want Brandon Johns to go be a basketball player at this point. And you have Isaiah Livers, who's certainly functional at the 3 and the 4. I just don't see high value here.
I just don't know that Pierce would block Johns. In terms of Pierce is going to do things in offense that Johns is never going to do. You're not thinking about Johns doing those kind of things right now. And yeah, he might play some 4, some 3. I mean, it's going to be pretty interchangeable. Like, are you looking at Isaiah Livers as a 3?
Yes.
He has like 12 assists in 2 years. I mean, that's what I think you look at and you worry and you say, this is a guy who'll actually move the ball, which was a huge problem for Michigan all last year. I guess we can hit quickly on Quinones. I have a hard time seeing that happen.
Swimming with some sharks.
But if you get the official visit, I guess you never know. He's a guy who could come in, play the 2, and put up a lot of threes and probably make a bunch. I don't know. That's probably what I would say is his baseline.
I do like his versatility as a shooter. He can make a lot of different shots, which is, you see so many of these clips of guys, and there's just a bunch of...
Yeah, he can shoot off the bounce. He can shoot off the catch.
Set feet, taking shots. But you watch his video, he can make a variety of shots.
And then there is Nashawn Hyland. Any takes there?
He's got lots of sauce. I can tell you that much. But he I'm not sure if this guy's a Big Ten player. And that's not just his frame. It's way more about his athleticism and his quickness. You watch. I've seen some basketball in Delaware, and it's not high level. And if you watch the tape on him, I mean, some of the teams that they're playing, it looks like they're playing JV teams or grade school teams. He's just so comically better than a lot of the guys on the floor with him, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how
he
projects. He looks like he looks like a CAA A10 level guy to me, probably.
This weekend probably is make or break for his recruitment. If he goes crazy in the Under Armour, I don't know where it is, but the live period with a bunch of coaches there, all of a sudden he'll have 10 high major offers. If he plays okay, he probably goes to maybe gets 1 or 2 high majors. And then I know he's thinking about going to college, but this is also a kid who could prep. And a lot of times, even if you play 17U and you get some offers, there's still an option to prep there potentially too, depending on, I guess, what he hears. I would say...
Do you think he could be a Big Ten player?
Too much unknown, right? And the unknown brings upside. It also brings downside, right? There's probably a lower percentage that he projects as an immediate rotation player than someone like Justin Pierce, but over a 4-year as a freshman, but over a 4-year loop, you might have more upside, right? You don't know what he's going to become. I mean, no one said Muhammad Ali was going to be X, Y, and Z at what point, but you have 4 years of him and you see it. Caris LeVert. True. We were watching a little skinny tape of him, and it's not every skinny guard that is under the radar is going to become Caris LeVert, but there is some of that, I guess, hidden upside there, right? You don't know. The mystery provides the opportunity, I would say.
That's fair. Like, one of the differences, though, with those guys is they looked like Big Ten caliber athletes as guards. And just in terms of running, jumping, dunking, like they could, Muhammad obviously wasn't a dunk contest guy or anything like that, but he was so quick with the ball. And those two things I just don't see on tape. And now, who knows? I mean, this kid could go into a strength and conditioning program and add 6 inches to his vertical and be a completely different player. I have no idea. And
he's not a leaper.
Right.
He's shifty and quick, but he's not a leaper.
He's a chucker, for sure. Takes a lot of shots and takes a lot of bad shots. The video that you posted, it was really interesting. Every once in a while, you watch tape of a kid and you're just like, I want to see all the misses. Right, because obviously all the highlight clips are all the makes, and some of these shots are just ridiculous. And you're like, I really want to see a compilation of the misses, and it would be a really different prospect at that point.
Yeah, his high school footage was pretty crazy. His Under Armour footage is a little more under control, better competition. But so that'll be interesting. I suspect that his recruitment will kind of come into focus over the next week or so here.
Yeah.
All right.
We hit on all 3 of them, right? Or all 4 of them?
All 4, yeah.
What's your final prediction on what happens with, or do you have any kind of prediction on what happens with Michigan and additions or
I think, so it's hard to gauge. I think Pierce, the fact that his Notre Dame visit was scheduled first, I think there's a pretty strong pull to Notre Dame. Then Michigan came in right before he visited Notre Dame, and then North Carolina came in right before he visited Michigan.
He'll be at North Carolina next weekend, right?
He'll be at North Carolina, I believe it's Monday, or like Sunday through Tuesday or something like that because of the live period. But yeah, it's sometime next week. I think the 28th. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's Sunday. I think if you can take any 2 of these kids, you do. I think they're all good enough. I think Wagner's the highest upside,
definitely,
without a doubt. And I would certainly take Pierce and Wagner in a heartbeat together, even though it's going to be a weird Iowa-style team where everyone is 6'7", and I don't know who's got any quickness to guard the perimeter, but except for Xavier Simpson. But I think that lineup composition would actually work pretty well. I don't know. You have any predictions?
My guess would be one of these 4 and one guy who we have not mentioned or heard of yet.
Fair.
It's April 22nd.
Yep.
There's a lot of time between now and this roster being finalized. So that would probably, in terms of just the safest guess would be that, I think. Okay. You ready to talk some Big Ten basketball?
All right, let's get into it.
We're already 47 minutes into this. This is going to be a monster. All right.
Give the people what they want. Take a week off. Maybe we should podcast more often. So the thought here is we're going to go through the standings from last year, and we're going to hit on each team, talk about what they gain or what they lose, and if we think it's kind of a stock up or stock down situation. Is that right?
I like it.
So let's start with Michigan State.
1 and 2 are taken care of.
Well, 1 and 3.
Good point.
So Michigan State, we've talked quite a bit about. Stock up, move on. And Purdue.
Well, Carson Edwards' era is over. I would assume this is going to be a find a way to somehow still be good. They also lose Ryan Klein and Grady Efert. So their returning pieces would be
No Gel and Matt Harms.
And a bunch of other...
Aaron Wheeler, Eric Hunter, Travion Williams. I mean, there's some pieces there. Yeah. I think it's definitely going to be a step back, kind of a retooling year. Mm-hmm. But I'd also say Matt Painter is a good enough coach that you don't want to drop him back too far.
I would agree. I mean, I don't know if they finish second in the league again.
No, definitely dropping. But are they an NCAA tournament team? I think they probably figure out a way.
I would agree with that. Let me see here. I haven't heard much about them in the transfer market, which is kind of surprising. No? Well, they've got 3 signees. They've got the number 8 ranked class in the league per 24/7. One 4-star kid in Brandon Newman from Valparaiso. And then 2 other pieces kind of filling things out, including a point guard from Zionsville, Indiana, Isaiah Thompson. I don't know. I think you're right in terms of it's Purdue, so they'll find a way. And my big question would be, what kind of offensive steps can Nogel Eastern take? Like, can he expand his game in any way? Can he make a jump to I don't even know what he averaged last year, but can he make a jump to a 14 point per game guy?
Yeah. They are bringing in Jihad Proctor from High Point, who's like a big-time scorer, 6'3" guard, as a grad transfer on an official visit. That could be an interesting add. I think it really used kind of a scoring guard, considering their entire team was based around a scoring guard who's leaving.
That's a good point.
So I don't know what – they lose a lot, and that team was probably as dependent on 2 players as any team in the conference, as you would say. But I like Aaron Wheeler. I like some of their pieces. I'm not buying a ton of stock there.
And I like Travion Williams. I mean, I think he proved himself last year. I was not buying him previously. But I mean, stepped up and he gave them a lot of good minutes this year, and he ended up, when they were coming down the stretch, he was a huge difference in terms of them holding on in the conference and kind of staying put where they are in that chase with Michigan State. Okay, so
Michigan, I mean, this is going to be stock down for now until you see how the roster shakes out. I don't know that you're going to drop them like a rock, but where would you go?
I would probably. I think you have to go stock down here. I think it'll ultimately still be a top 4 team in the Big Ten. I think it will be still a preseason top 25 team, possibly top 15 team. But yeah, there's still a lot of questions there. There's way more questions than answers for Michigan right now. But Xavier Simpson and John Teskey as your starting points, not bad.
It's a pretty good base.
Not bad. That and Beeline's coaching, I'll take that.
All right.
Wisconsin.
Otis is fast asleep from this
Can you hear
podcast
him?
over here. Yeah, you can hear him just snoring away.
He's just been snoring and farting this whole time, so that's what's going on over here.
Wisconsin
let me move him. Hold on.
All right.
Otis not feeling the Big Ten hoops. Okay. Wisconsin.
Wisconsin loses Ethan Happ, Charles Thomas, Khalil Iverson, and Ty Strickland.
Mm-hmm. Ty Strickland headed to Temple as a transfer, representing the Big Five.
Oh, jeez. Anyone going to Philly? You're gonna start a Philly hoops podcast next. So basically, you have Trice, Davison, Kobe King, Nate Reavers as kind of your core, and I don't quite know what I think about that team.
Well, they need the Hauser brothers to come in and sit out and give people hope for a year, and then look forward to 2020-21. How's that sound as a plan?
Yeah, I mean, that team is just not very dynamic. I mean, they're just not great.
No.
I think Rivers will be a breakout guy, and he'll have a good year. But other than that, not a lot to get excited about in Madison, in my opinion.
No, I mean, you just look at some of these guys, like who's taking a huge step forward. Trice kind of seems like a guy who is who he is. Brad Davison, Iverson, maybe. Pritzel.
Iverson's gone.
Or I'm sorry.
King.
Pritzel. King. I don't know. I think your boy Reavers is probably the only one who can make a step forward to being like an all-conference possible conversation guy.
I think that's fair. So definite stock down, I think, for Wisconsin.
Yes.
Maryland is next. Jalen Smith is coming back without testing the waters. Bruno and Cowan both declared. still probably a chance that Cowan could come back. And they bring in a top 100 recruit in Makai Mitchell. They also bring back Ayala and Wiggins, who are both really good as freshmen. I think Cowan's the big thing here. If Cowan comes back, this team should be really good. If he doesn't, a lot of pieces without anything to kind of hold them together.
Yeah, I was really surprised by Smith not even testing the waters. I saw the Giovanni and Smiths put out their 2020 draft today, and he's projected as the 31st pick in next year's draft. That's someone who you would imagine would test, and
especially with his raw talent, right? Like he's got the physical ability.
Yeah, like he's been looked at by scouts for a pretty long time here. I like Maryland's talent, but I feel like we say that every single year. There's a lot there to build around. I would say stock up, actually.
I'd say stock up with Cowan, stock down without Cowan.
Fair. That's fair.
And you're not buying into Mark Turgeon's player development being the best thing for Jalen Smith?
That's what it always comes back to. And it's...
Next up, I think we have a definite stock up. Iowa.
Wow.
Wieskamp and Tyler Cook declared for the draft.
Cook goes.
Cook is expected to stay. Yeah. Wieskamp probably expected to come back. Nicholas Bear and Maishi Daly are gone, but Bohannon, Isaiah Moss, Connor McCaffrey, Luka Garza, they have a lot back. And they bring in another McCaffrey. Who is a top 100 recruit. I like what they have there. Although I figure they will probably have the worst defense in the Big Ten once again. So
I don't know what makes you say that.
It's just a hunch.
The key here is Wieskamp. I think he could be a stud, and I would imagine he comes back. Were you surprised to see him throw his name in there?
No, I mean, if you're all Big Ten freshman team, I don't know why you wouldn't.
I mean, he shot 42% on threes. He made 59 threes as a freshman. You bring back Wieskamp and Bohannon, who combined for, I suck at math, 140 made threes. That's pretty good. And Pat McCaffrey is apparently a dude, legitimate player. And then, Garza continues to be, I think, one of the more interesting developing players in the league. There are a lot of nice pieces here. They'll be probably preseason top 25 nationally.
I would think so. And Tyler Cook, incredibly talented. I don't know if he ever consistently lived up to his talent to the degree that you're going to really, really worry about losing him.
He made a lot of just bad decisions at bad times last year for that team.
Average offensive rating. I mean, I'm not that concerned about losing Tyler Cook. It might just be better for everyone. I think Tyler Cook might actually be a good pro too. It's just wasn't really a fit there. I feel like.
Fair.
Minnesota. Jordan Murphy gone. Isaiah Washington gone. R.I.P. Jelly Fam. Dupree McBrayer gone. Brock Stoll gone. And Matt Stockman gone. Amir Coffey in the draft. I would say probably staying in.
I would bet that he stays in, yes.
So you're looking at a team based around Eric Curry, Gabe Kalsher, Daniel Otura, Marcus Carr, Pitt transfer, right?
Yep.
Thoughts on that?
I'll say stock down.
Stock down.
From a team, an NCAA tournament team that shouldn't have been an NCAA tournament team.
You know whose stocks are up?
Who's that?
Richard Pitino's retirement after that contract extension.
Just strong-armed them into a new deal. Pretty shrewd move. Let's take a look at what they have coming in, because that might be
Trey Williams and Sam Freeman. I'm not sure I don't know anything about them. I'm just looking at a list. I'll admit that.
Well, 2 3-stars. Neither were ranked in the top 150. Minnesota needs to, I think, get cooking here in the offseason and start getting some bodies. How many scholarship players do they even have? This is not a good situation.
There's only 9 on the list I'm reading off of.
Okay, well, not great. Stock down.
Stock down.
All right, Ohio State will probably be one of the more interesting teams in the league next year. Still waiting on Caleb Wesson's NBA decision. A really strong recruiting class coming in. Is this the best recruiting class in the league, Dylan?
Probably.
Okay.
Michigan State might be up there.
Right.
But 3 top 100 kids. DJ Carton is the highlight at point guard. Alonzo Gaffney and EJ Little are also top 100 kids. And I think you're looking at, they also had CJ Walker as a transfer who sat out last year. I think a lot of expectations for this Ohio State team after a year that was kind of expected to be meh and was kind of meh. If Caleb Wesson's back, there's a lot of tools for Chris Holtman to work with. And it seems like a team that should be up in the top 3-4 spots in the league, right?
I definitely think so. I mean, Keyshawn Woods and Jackson are definitely losses.
Are they, though?
I don't know. I mean, they're
they
guys who played a lot of minutes.
Played and left.
Right. They're guys who played a lot of minutes. And even with the recruits that you mentioned, that was without the Diallo kid, Ibrahima Diallo, who a true 7-footer from prolific prep, who I think has a ton of upside, but is probably a little bit of a project. But who knows there? But the amount of guys who I just like their games on this team is significant. Diallo, Wesson is tough as shit. I'll be really interested to watch.
Keynote, the smaller Wesson is tough as shit.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Caleb is not.
I wasn't talking about Caleb. I was talking about Andre.
All right, well, that needs to be clarified.
Sorry. I'll be really interested to watch Dwayne Washington next year. He played a ton of minutes and put up a ton of shots in those minutes as a
30% from 3.
Right, as a freshman. But I think he's a guy who, when the game slows down a little bit, is going to be an impact player. And then Kyle Young is just super efficient and tough dude, Big Ten player. Curious to see how his development goes. Is DJ Carton starting point guard from day one?
CJ Walker could make it interesting because he started for Florida State. I think he started for Florida State 2 years ago when they played Michigan. I mean, he's experienced. I think you could look at even playing. I think they'll both play a lot of minutes. I think Carton probably expects to be starting point guard from day one, and I'm more curious if Caleb Wesson comes back. Is this a team where Caleb Wesson uses 30% of possessions, or is it kind of a different style team based around a lot of this perimeter talent next year? I don't know the answer to that. But they have some of those pieces. I think you'd look at Luther Muhammad as a guy who should be expected to take a big leap.
Yep.
I like his ceiling a lot more than Dwayne Washington's ceiling.
Yep.
Interesting. A lot of pieces, a lot of guards for a team that kind of gets rid of some guards who were really not that good in Keyshawn Woods and CJ Jackson. I think you're fine moving on and trying some new options.
All right. Stock up.
Stock up, without a doubt. I think they're probably one of the biggest risers in the league.
This will not be a team that wins 8 games in the Big Ten again. Now let's take a trip to the sunny shores of Archie Island. Losing a lot. Romeo Langford gone. Juwan Morgan gone. Devontae Green, what do you think?
Declared.
Yep. What do you think? What does he do?
Is he a guy? I don't know. I don't think he's being drafted, but I don't know if he's coming back either. Let's put it that way.
Okay. A lot going on with this roster. My big questions are how good is Jerome Hunter going to be?
Is he healthy?
I don't know. If he can play, how good can he be? I think you and I were both really high on him back in the day, and I thought he was a potential 2-and-done type guy going into college. So this will be a big year for him. How good is Trace Jackson Davis? I don't know, but they need him to be really good. So, Deron Davis back though, Justin Smith,
Finney,
the young guys, Demezy Anderson and Race Thompson filling things out. What do you think? I think, and they got 3 open spots. There's
it's definitely stocked down. I think they need to be active in whatever late recruiting market.
Yes,
I believe they just had a guard Virginia Tech decommit or something like that on an official visit this weekend.
They need to be deep in the portal, deep in it.
Deep in the portal. Yeah, they need some dudes who can play, preferably more ready to play than Evan Fitzner was last year. But stock down. I mean, if you couldn't figure out how to win games with Juwan Morgan and Romeo Langford, I'm not sure that you can figure out how to win games with Rob Finney and Justin Smith.
Yeah, gotta love when an 8-12 team has 3 guys moving on that think they're NBA play. I think Juwan Morgan will get a summer league spot. Romeo Langford's actually obviously a lottery pick. Devontae Green, I have no idea what he does, but if he moves on, like that's you're seeing this a lot with teams that have terrible records with just multiple guys moving on. I think Xavier has 4 guys who declared for the draft off a team that didn't, or was it Butler? I think it was Xavier, off a team that didn't make the NCAA tournament. That's a lot of talent to not be making the NCAA tournament.
Worst news for Indiana, they only get to play Michigan State once. Take another win off the schedule because that was the only game they could really figure out how to win last year.
But that roster will probably see a lot more action coming its way. Penn State. I think
let me guess. You're buying into...
I'm buying.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I don't know what Lamar Stevens will do. He's currently in the draft. I'm sure that enough people could tell him that he's a pro, that he ends up staying in. I don't know. What? Oh, you are scoffing over that.
What is this team going to be, even if Lamar Stevens comes back? Are you saying it's going to make the NCAA tournament?
No, I don't know. I'm just saying maybe stock up from 7 wins in the league. They lose Josh Reeves. That obviously hurts. I don't know, man. Someone has to win games in this league, no? But if Stevens is back and you have Stevens, Dredd, and Mike Watkins, I don't think that's that bad of a starting point.
It's just going to be Penn State basketball. They're going to go about 8-12. They're going to be terrible on offense and play really hard on defense. It doesn't matter who's there. Even they were 0-10 and they still came back in 7-13. I mean, it just all comes back to Penn State basketball. That's what it is. One of the worst offense in the league. Play their ass off on defense. Pat Chambers needs a Luke Yaklich for offense. That's what he needs to do. Get some offensive coach in there to run something. It doesn't have to be something good. Just run something on offense.
All right. Well, I'll tell you to remember the name Seth Lundy, Philly kid. He can play.
I remember him as a recruit.
He's about 6'6". He's got a lot of game. I don't know what that means for next year, but
it'll be great taking isolation jumpers from the baseline after Lamar Stevens is playing in Italy with Tony Carr.
Jesus, just trashing the Cats, man. What's wrong with you? Why? They were like the best, one of the top 4 teams in the league over the second half of the conference.
And then they lost in the first round of the Big Ten tournament to Minnesota.
What do you think about the Bolton kid, though? He can play.
He can shoot. He's a good. I mean, they're good. He's a Penn State guard. He's going to be there for 4 years. It's going to be constantly pretty good.
All right.
It's just I don't know what changes the cycle of Penn State hoops.
I feel like there's going to be some Penn State wagers being made in next preseason.
Probably wasn't this. It probably is every preseason.
Probably after you
just
get 4
they
beers.
got a couple guys from Philly doesn't mean they're destined for greatness.
Beg to differ. You're gonna get about 5 or 6 beers into me one night, and I will probably be making some bold Penn State bets in the preseason, and I'm totally comfortable with that. Who's next?
Rutgers. Are we buying? I'm buying more into
totally
Rutgers
buying
than
Rutgers.
Penn State.
Wait, we skipped Illinois, bro. Oh, they're all 7-13. I forgot the league was just one big ham sandwich. All right, Rutgers.
Rutgers loses Shaq Dorson and Issa Team, however you say his name. He got arrested and deported. Not great.
Oops. All right, go ahead.
Geo Baker, Amarugi, Miles Johnson, Montez Mathis, Ron Harper Jr. There's a lot of players who played pretty well this year back. I mean, I think they showed some progress, and it's something different for Rutgers. I'm buying in a little bit.
I'm buying. Absolutely.
NIT team next year, maybe?
Yes. I think that's fair.
And they a little NIT run.
Also here to watch Peter Kiss play more minutes and probably annoy the hell out of everyone in the league. That's always fun to watch. And no one declared, right?
From Rutgers? Who's declared for the draft?
I feel like at least 2 guys from Rutgers have declared in multiple years.
Oh, I mean, you have Corey Sanders. Corey Sanders declared every year.
But they would always have one other guy declaring too, it feels like. Maybe I'm misremembering. Right. But
Corey Sanders took enough shots for 2 guys.
That's a good point. They have 2 scholarships open. And so maybe an added guy here or 2. I'll be interested to see if Baker can kind of become more of a basketball player. Sometimes he just kind of resorts to being a chucker when they don't need that. But I feel like if he can kind of, in terms of them taking any step forward in terms of making that offense a little bit more efficient, I think a lot of that's on Baker becoming a basketball player. Fair?
That's a fair take. The next team is Illinois. And I think everyone's going to agree that they're stock up. It's hard not to be. The question is, what is this team's ceiling with AO coming back?
I think their ceiling is top 6 in the league. NCAA. Okay.
So they're NCAA. Would you bet on them to make the NCAA tournament right now?
Yes.
I think they're a tournament team. I think I really like Georgie.
Love Georgie. You don't really like Georgie. Love Georgie. Right. Gotta love Georgie.
All right, sell me on Illinois.
Okay. AO is absolutely an NBA basketball player who will be playing Big Ten basketball next year. I think the guards will have the benefit of a year of mistakes, if you know what I mean, and that can be good. This is a team that threw away a lot of possessions when they didn't need to, threw away games late when they didn't need to, but also saw what it could be when it won those 4 straight games in, I guess that was early mid-February, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, early February.
But this was a team that beat Minnesota, that beat Maryland, that beat Michigan State, beat Ohio State. They did win against NCAA caliber teams after starting the year. What was it, like 4-12 or something? I like Frazier sometimes, and I like Nichols sometimes. If they can figure it out, though, this team could make I think AO is a known, and I think Georgie is a known. But those 2 guys, if they can figure it out, this team takes a pretty significant step forward. And don't forget about Kofi Cockburn, who, if no one has seen this guy, they will fall out of their seats because he is an absolute brick shit house. He's just a tank. He might be the strongest guy in the league. I saw him once in person, and I don't even know where the hell it was, in some summer thing somewhere, and was like, he's one of those guys that he walked on the court, and you're just like, who the hell is that? our boy Nick Baumgartner is going to be offended when he watches him play basketball. The fact that he's not on a football field somewhere. I don't know. They got a ton of guys, man. They got a lot of talent. It's like just pure talent. I don't know how there aren't that many teams in the league that match them.
Can you win playing defense the way they play defense?
That I don't know. That's probably the biggest question.
They've proven they can win games, and they won all those games, but then they turned around and lost 5 of their last 6 regular season games.
Right.
That makes me nervous to buy in.
And I think like our theory all along on like if Underwood would be successful is if they could be that just like outlier team in the league that just played this system that you just have to change everything you do on a 2-night turnaround and figure out how to play them, and that they could just that could be their thing, right? That would be Illinois basketball, and that's how it would be a competitive Big Ten squad. I've wondered if they actually have the personnel to play the style that they play sometimes.
I like the way they play on offense, and I think that there's probably a very high ceiling for this offense next year. I just worry that the defense will be its Achilles heel all year long, and that'll kind of hold them back from being more than a bubble team. If they can, the best stretch of Brad Underwood's career was when he threw out his defense the second half of the year at Oklahoma State, and they went on that run to the NCAA tournament.
Right.
I wonder if there's first in the league in forced turnover rate, last in free throw rate. If you're fouling all the damn time trying to prevent or create turnovers, it doesn't work. And when they fall apart, it falls apart because of the defense. You can't be giving up over 1.3 points per possession in multiple games late in the year. Like, you just can't win like that. It's just get run off the floor. I don't know. That's my worry. The talent's obviously there.
Right.
The offensive system works. We've seen him coach the number 1 offense in the country when he had players. I think you'll see a great offense. I just don't know about the defense.
They were just such a weird team last year. It seemed like they never really quite knew who they were or how the personnel fit. Like, what was the one game? Maryland. When they won at Maryland, or they beat Maryland in New York, and the kid Tavian Jones made like 4 threes out of nowhere, and he was a freshman who hadn't really been playing, and he made like 4 or 5 threes, and you're like, man, now they got this new piece, and then like a month later he wasn't playing again. And so, like, what does that tell you about the Maryland game? What was real? That was always the hard part about figuring out Illinois last year, was what's real and what's not. The 2 things going into next year, though, is that AO and Georgie are totally legit. And what else is everything around it? I don't know. That's on Underwood to figure out. But there's no reason for this team to not be in contention for one of the top 4 spots in the league and an NCAA tournament bid.
Top 4, okay.
I'm saying just be in content. Like that should be. I think they'll finish. I'll pick them to finish 6th or something like that. But like they need to be in contention.
Fair enough. We got 2 teams left.
It's also the magic year number 3 for Mr. Underwood.
Is that his? Does he have success
No.
in 3rd years? Has he ever been at a school for 3 years?
You know the deal with year 3 for coaches is
Stephen F. Austin, 3rd year.
That's when things get interesting.
Real?
Yeah.
All right, Nebraska. Biggest addition so far would be the coach.
Yeah, damn straight.
I don't think said coach has a lot of pieces to work with here on this roster.
Still waiting to hear from Isaiah Roby.
He declared, but will he come back or not?
Right.
They have this list I'm looking at says 5 guys back, and I've heard of 3.
Right. So
that's not great.
For listeners, the departing guys, there's a lot of familiar names. Isaac Copeland, gone. James Palmer, Thomas Allen, Johnny Trueblood.
Glenn Watson.
Miss you. Glenn Watson Jr.
Nana Akenton played.
Now,
Tanner Borkart played.
So of the roster that you're looking at, I don't think will look anything like that come next November. They are going to add a Island of Misfit Toys level of transfers, I think, here in the next 5 weeks.
Already got one grad transfer.
Yeah, they got the Cheatham kid from Florida Gulf Coast. He was a former Marquette signee, former top 100 recruit.
He played at Marquette.
Okay. But he averaged like
2.5 years at Marquette.
He averaged 13 a game or so at Florida Gulf Coast, played through a shoulder injury last year. So he's the first of what will be many, right? One of the interesting things about Hoiberg's addition is that it's not only Hoiberg, but he brought in, I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but Matt Masai, something. Former St. John's assistant coach, who is known for just bringing in transfers by the bucket load. He basically is credited with building the roster at St. John's, which was kind of a lot of just guys from all over the place, and they were a tournament team. So I'm not sure what they're going to add, but there's going to be a lot of names that we've never heard. This is going to drive me nuts. Abdul
Masai?
Masai?
I don't know how you say it.
I'm not sure. But like he was back with Hoiberg at Iowa State. And he's the guy who brought in Royce White and DeAndre Kane, and this is his thing, is getting transfers. So he was basically one of the first hires that Hoiberg made.
Abdul Masai, right in the...
Abdul Masai.
I think got pronunciation in the media thing here.
I think that's what I said. Something like that. The rest of the staff is what? I think Doc Sadler is there, and then the coach of the Bulls G League team is the other guy?
No, Armand Gates is on staff. He was at Florida, I think.
Okay.
But I think he was also at Nebraska previously, maybe. I don't know.
But they've got 4 more open scholarships and 5 if Roby leaves. So they're going to go
moves to be made.
Going to go get a bunch of dudes and try to turn it into something that can be competitive. What's your thought on that? Like, if you're a first year coach, like just getting a bunch of like cobbling together whatever you can piece together for your first year versus like actual roster building, getting guys who will have to sit out, or getting a couple late signees who you can hopefully develop and turn into players by year 2 or 3.
If I get hired in March and I'm told my roster is Carrington Davis, Brady Hyman, Amir Harris, DeCon Burke, and Thor Tharden Barson, I'm going to start cobbling. You need to you need to be able to play. I think you want to sign some guys, but also it's not like Hoiberg's been out recruiting. I mean, he's been in the NBA. It's not like you're coming in with relationships already built, or some late blooming kids. I think you probably have room to take some of each, and you want to build that core. But Hoiberg has proven that he can work with transfers and create a culture that way. So I don't know that I think you just let him do his thing.
Fair.
You're against it? You bring in about the top 10 unsigned kids from Philly and get after it?
Probably. I mean, it doesn't seem like a bad plan. A lot of it's also your job security, too. Like, Hoiberg can do whatever the hell he wants at Nebraska for as long as he'll have them, not the other way around. So, I didn't understand Underwood bringing in some of the guys that he brought in when he did so, because it was just a piecemeal for that year 1 where I'm like, you're playing with house money right now. Like, get in some guys that you can develop and make it so that year 3 is promising.
So you're out signing Stu Douglas's and Zach Novak's instead of a grad transfer. You think that's a better long-term fit?
I think that's a better long-term plan. I just don't want to get into a cycle of just reloading a roster every year.
I think it depends on the coach.
True. And the system.
And
if you're rolling the ball out, go get dudes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Northwestern, your favorite.
Last place and stock down.
Oh, boy. So they lose Derek Pardon, Vic Law, Ryan Taylor, Aaron Falzone, and Barrett Benson, and Jordan Ash. They're returning A.J. Turner, Anthony Gaines, Pete Nance,
Miller
Kopp, Ryan Greer, Ryan Young. No NBA entries, though, so that's good.
Is it? They bring in a top 100 recruit, Robbie Baran. I don't know if that's how you say it.
Baran.
I would be shocked if this is not the worst team in the Big Ten next year.
I think it's a good thing that our old pal Billy Donlin got himself a head coaching job this year. Let's put it that way. Headed to UMKC.
Yes, and I don't know if I don't know where this thing's going here at Northwestern.
No.
They went 4-16 last year, and they lose their 3 best players.
Jesus, yeah.
2.5 best players.
To your credit, you did throw out a take in what was that? That was early. That was like January when you were asking about Collins' tenure at Northwestern. I'll put it this way: when the sands started shifting this offseason, he might have been a guy who would have been wise to go get himself a job and start over somewhere. I know he's all in on Chicago and he's all in on Northwestern and blah 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 blah, but yeah, where's the road ahead for this thing?
So 6 years at Northwestern, went 6-12, 6-12, 8-10, 10-8, 6-12, 4-16, and
I don't think that's getting him the Duke job.
The Northwestern will let you hang around a while, but at the end of the day, you just become the Northwestern coach, and I don't know where that leads to. Yeah, I guess it leads to Holy Cross 3 years later.
I was going to say he's starting to look a lot like Bill Carmody. Let's look. Here you go. Ready? The last 5 years of Bill Carmody's career at Northwestern: 8-10, 7-11, 7-11, 8-10, 4-14.
If
not dramatically different,
Derek Pardon doesn't make that full court alley-oop lob thing against Michigan, it's Northwestern in the tournament. You'd be talking about this completely differently.
Right.
Really, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. And both of the last 2 years have ended by running off of the cliff. Right?
Not great.
The 17-18 season ended with 7 straight losses after being 15-10 overall and 6-6 in the league, and they finished 15-17 overall. Woof.
It's a mess.
Well, stock down. So I think for the league, stock down.
I don't know about that. I think you might have more. I like Iowa. Ohio State, we gave stock up.
Yeah.
Maryland with Cowan.
Illinois.
If we think Illinois do you think there can? It's hard to get more depth. This year we have what? Was it 8 teams in the tournament? 8 teams. You think over under 8 teams as NCAA tournament teams next year? Probably under.
I would say under.
The key could be if Michigan State can kind of rise all ships by being a preseason number 1 team, that could maybe help, I guess, the league's reputation early.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see a lot of ceiling for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, you see the teams that could be good, right? And I think those need to go the league's way, and then basically Michigan State needs to be the title contender that we expect it to be, and then Michigan needs to be Michigan, and either like Purdue or Wisconsin needs to well, Wisconsin's out of the question, but Purdue needs to kind of find a way to be Purdue still. And that doesn't mean being a top 15 team, but means being
a tournament team.
Right. So Michigan beat Michigan, right. Purdue beat Michigan, or Michigan beat Michigan, Purdue beat Purdue, Michigan State compete for a title, and then hope that the other teams go their way. We got to figure it out. I don't even know why they bother playing this season.
Yeah, we'll do this again. We'll finalize everything in 5 weeks after the draft decisions are set, and then you guys can just listen to our podcast on repeat from November to March, and we'll tell you everything's going to happen. Because I'm sure everything we said in our first podcast in November played out exactly as anticipated.
But we didn't. You'll note though that we did not do a way too early, crazy early ranking. So
no,
that's good.
This isn't even the way too early. This is probably a second version. This is way too early part 2.
We're probably late.
That's going to be hitting the Twitters right about now in every updated list.
I think we're actually late for way too early.
Without a doubt.
All right, brother. That'll do it for this thing. That's an hour and a half podcast on April 22nd. So for you lunatics out there,
dig in.
I hope that works. Other than that, read Hoops. Really, his Dylan's breakdown of the guys that Michigan's looking at, both in evaluations and the video he put together, is top-notch stuff. If you want way more on some of the guys that we touched on earlier, I highly, highly recommend subscribing and checking that out. Follow me on The Athletic.
You have anything coming up?
Yeah, we got a little mailbag.
The story about the Final Four coaches was excellent, worth the read.
Thank you. Yeah, that if any of you missed that, I kind of went behind the scenes on the ground on the other side of the Final Four. That is not played out in the confines of the arena, but instead kind of at the hotel bars and on the street and in the convention halls and at the evening gatherings of coaches and what it's like to be a coach kind of at the Final Four. I think it might be a lot different than people think it is. So
any story that starts at the hotel bar is in your sweet spot.
I can't imagine how I found my way there, but we did some real reporting. So check that out if you're interested. I'll have a mailbag running this week and probably another piece or two. And then I'm headed to the Wells Fargo Championship at Quail Hollow Country Club in Charlotte next week. So any of you golf fans out there, check that out. I'll be at Bethpage for the PGA Championship 2 weeks after that. And then off and running, or go to the Canadian Open in Hamilton, Canada, or go to the Rocket Mortgage here in Detroit. The Tour Championship in Atlanta later on, and a couple in between. So, action-packed for you golf fans, golf readers out there. But we'll still touch on basketball stuff as it arises. So, that'll do it. We really appreciate everyone listening and subscribing and reading and sharing this. And leave a rating and a review. And if you know any other delinquents out there who need some college basketball coverage, be sure to pass the pod along. All right. Say goodbye, Dylan.
Later, everyone.
Be sure to tip your bartenders and your servers.